Want to know why? Ask how. Howard, the humongous. We have a huge problem. You all know about it. It's the division between the super rich and the poor. It's grown faster than ever. It's become one of the worst in the world. And the stairways that used to allow the poor to become middle class and the middle class to become rich and the rich to become super rich, many of them seem to have been closed down. Many of them seem to have rotted away. This is a problem we have to solve, but there's one thing you have to say. Sometimes it pays to have the super rich around. Sometimes it pays to pour vast amounts of money into the pockets of certain super creative human beings. What in the world do I mean? Sounds like a ghastly notion. Well, once upon a time, there was a steel man who put together a massive steel industry. Steel at the time was absolutely vital to railroad tracks. Previous railroad tracks had been made of iron. They had a tendency to overheat. They had a tendency to curl. They had a tendency to rip straight through the floors of passenger carriages on trains and kill dozens of people at a time. Train wrecks that savaged people, that literally cut them from guzzle to zatch, were a regular occurrence. But if steel could be made in quantity, and if it could be made with a regular consistency, those safety accidents, those eviscerations of humans like you and me, could end. One guy pulled together a vast steel industry and made steel of a consistent quality that solved the safety problem with the railroads. His name was Andrew Carnegie. He became super rich for this gift he gave to Western civilization, especially American civilization. What did he do with the money? He invested it in libraries. In all probability, in your youth, you spent time studying or just plain reading and having a good but silent time in an Andrew Carnegie library. Then there was J.D. Rockefeller. Until J.D. Rockefeller came along, good quality lighting at night came from whale oil. Whale oil cost the equivalent of $200 a gallon. No middle class person and no poor person could afford it. The poor went to bed when the sun set. The rich, who had whale oil, were able to dance long into the night. They had an extra 5 to 7 hours of life during the night. Then three men, one in Poland, one in Canada, one in the United States, found a way to turn this gooey, useless black stuff that oozed from the earth like a pollutant into kerosene. And kerosene could provide the same quality of light with the same kind of lamps that only the super rich had been able to afford. But kerosene had a problem. When you bought a 5-gallon jug of kerosene, it came with a lamp. You lit the lamp until the kerosene ran out, then you went to the store and bought another jug. But there were roughly 180 wildcatters in Pennsylvania, all of whom were pumping oil from the ground and refining it, and all were refining it to wildly different standards. So when you went to get your second jug, if it came from another refiner, or even if it came from the same refiner, there was a good chance that when you poured that kerosene into your lamp, the lamp would blow up in your face. The number of lawsuits over people who were burned to death or scarred in vicious, appalling ways by lamps is huge in the late 19th century. One guy came along, a grocery, what is it called? He's not a warehouser. Grocery guy who sells groceries to stores. He was in Cleveland, Ohio. And he began to get in on this new oil business, the kerosene business. And he saw the wildly different standards and what damage they were doing to the humans who brought this oil. And he went into the oil business to try to standardize the oil so that no matter where you bought 5 gallons of oil, no matter when you put it into your lantern, it was always the same and it never blew up in your face. His name was John David Rockefeller. Eventually, he either intimidated all of the 180 wildcatters in Pennsylvania into selling out to him, or he offered them large amounts of money that they couldn't resist. He put all those oil companies together. He went to the railroads. The railroads were not happy about carrying oil because you had to build special tank cars to carry oil. They were expensive. And the wildcatters had periods of binge when they had tremendous amounts of oil and periods of bust when they had no oil whatsoever. And railroad cars were standing idle. They weren't amortizing their costs. John David Rockefeller went to the railroads and very secretly said, "You have your posted rates. Here's what I'm going to do for you. I will guarantee you a steady supply of oil 12 months of the year if you give me a break on your rates." What did this amount to for the average human being? First, the cost of high quality lighting at night went down so low that the middle class could afford it. Then it went down so low the poor could afford it. Eventually, J.D. Rockefeller drove the price of kerosene down to 6 cents a gallon. It was a miracle. John David Rockefeller, not Thomas Alva Edison, was called the father of light in the late 19th century. What in the world did John David Rockefeller do with the huge amounts of money he got from giving a gift of an extra 5 hours a night, an extra 6 years of life for all practical purposes, to the average human being, to even the poor human being? He took his money, he invested it in universities, and he invested it in 1813, 100 years ago, in the Rockefeller Foundation, which has been doing spectacular research, fantastic things for science and for the arts ever since. Today we have a few of these incredibly creative, super rich people. Bill Gates, who with Melinda Gates is trying to solve problems like malaria and our educational dilemmas, problems that governments have not been able to solve. Bill Gates just did an interview in Wired magazine that is very impressive. It gives you a sense of his commitment to uplifting his fellow human beings. Then there is Elon Musk. Elon Musk, when he got out of college, asked himself a question. What 3 things are going to do the most to change the nature of human life in my lifetime? And his answer was, number 1, the internet. Number 2, alternative energy. And number 3, space. He went into the internet. He joined a small but budding company. He helped build it to a massive company. It was called PayPal. He sold his share, and he became a billionaire. It's possible that he only had $800 million, poor baby. But he took that money and immediately invested it in space. And now Elon Musk is doing things with his rockets that NASA absolutely cannot do, at a cost that NASA cannot in any way match. And Elon Musk, the launch market, remember, the satellite market, you use satellite signals. You use solar energy harvested in space and sent down as electromagnetic waves in your GPS. You use it if you use DirecTV. You use it in whenever you lift your cell phone and make a very long distance call. This is a $333 billion industry, the space satellite industry. And the major launchers of choice have been Russia and the European Space Agency, not the United States. Well, suddenly Elon Musk, a few weeks ago, launched a rocket, the Falcon 9, with 9 engines that carried a Brussels, it's Belgium. They carried a Belgian satellite into space at a third the cost of what the ESA, the European Space Agency, or the Russians would have charged. And soon Elon will have his grasshopper and no longer be forced to throw expensive rockets away after a single flight. He will be able to land them. He will be able to refurbish them the way that a plane is refurbished when it comes from LA to New York. He'll be able to get them back in the air in 10 hours, and the price will go down to 1/100th of what it is today. Then there's Jeff Bezos, the founder of Amazon. Bezos has his own aerospace company, and Bezos too is working on getting us into space. Some of the people that we put into whose pockets we pour vast amounts of money, some of the super rich who we might ordinarily resent, do incredible things for you and me. They spread out and they become our sensors and our antennae, spreading into new territories and bringing the opening to those territories back to you and me. Does that mean that we need to have an aristocracy of the super rich and the rest of us be so poor that we can not even aspire to their level? Absolutely not. The stairways have to be open that allow us to climb. That's a vital part of America, opportunity. But sometimes pouring money into the pockets of the truly creative and committed super rich can be one of the best things we ever do. This is Howard the Humongous speaking to you from the future. It's your job and my job to make. Remember, want to know why? Ask how. Howard the Humongous. Now for the off button. There it is. I found it. Where's the button to push? Wait. That's it. I got it.